So we'd like the camera to shake once our projectile hits something, like that, and we'd also like it to shake once one of our pawns dies. Hey, welcome back. In this video, we're going to add another special type of effect to our game involving shaking the camera. We'd like to shake the camera when the projectile hits something, as well as when one of our pawns dies. This will add just another bit of a finishing touch to the game that will make it feel a bit more professional. So let's dive in. Now here we are inside the editor, and I'd like to add a new class for our camera shake. Unreal Engine has a built-in class for shaking the camera. Now I'm going to make a new folder here in the Blueprints folder and call this Camera Shake. And in the Camera Shake folder, I'm going to right-click and create a new blueprint. The reason we're making a blueprint is because this is one of those things that's a lot easier to make from the blueprint side, as there are lots of variables to adjust with camera shakes. So we're going to create a new blueprint based on Camera Shake, and here we see the option Camera Shake. So let's go ahead and select Camera Shake, click Select, and we'll call this first Camera Shake Hit Camera Shake. Now let's double-click this new blueprint and open it up, and we'll see that it has a details panel with lots of different variables to choose from. I'm going to move this out just a bit, and let's talk about some of these parameters that exist in the Camera Shake class. Now, there are quite a few here, and we're only going to touch on a couple that affect the overall feel of the camera shake. Now, you'll see that there's a section called Oscillation, and the reason this section is called Oscillation is because a camera shake involves oscillating the camera. Now here's the Wikipedia page for a sine wave. A sine wave is a mathematical function, and we don't need to understand the math behind a sine wave, but it does help to see what a sine wave looks like. If I scroll down right here to the right, I see this red wave here, and it's labeled sine. A sine wave oscillates. That means it goes up and down or back and forth. So if our camera is being jerked back and forth in a smooth manner, we say that it's oscillating. Now we see that we have an oscillation duration and a blend in time and a blend out time. The duration affects how long the shake is going to last. Now these are values you can experiment with, but I've already done some experimenting and I know some good ballpark values. For the hit camera shake, when the projectile hits something, we're going to have a relatively short duration. Now this is in seconds, and I'm going to choose 0.25 seconds for the duration of this camera shake. And for the blend in and blend out time, I'm going to use values of 0.05. So 0.05 for blend in time and 0.05 for the blend out time. This is how long it takes to blend in and out of the camera shake, which will last for 0.25 seconds. Now we have different types of oscillations. We have rotational oscillations, and these will rotate the camera according to that oscillation function. We have a location oscillation, which will jerk the camera around in space, and a field of view oscillation, which will affect the field of view, which is basically zooming in and out with the camera. Now, rotation and field of view oscillations are the ones that are more prone to causing motion sickness. So you can experiment with those if you like, but for this camera shake, we're just going to change the location oscillation. Now we have three axes, X, Y, and Z. And we saw that the sine wave will jerk something back and forth. These oscillations will jerk the camera back and forth in the X, Y, and Z directions. I'm going to click these drop downs to expand them, and we'll see that each axis has an amplitude, a frequency, as well as an initial offset and a waveform. Now the initial offset for the camera shake is set to random, and we can leave that at random so that we have less of a predictable camera shake. And the sine wave is the type of waveform used when jerking the camera, and we saw that it has a smooth up and down motion. Now, amplitude is the maximum amount of movement in that axis that the camera will move. I'm going to set these all three to have amplitudes of 10 in X, Y, and Z, and frequency is going to be how fast the camera oscillates. I'm going to set these also to be 10. Now, we'll get to see just how this looks as soon as we implement the camera shake. But before we do that, I'm going to create another camera shake, and this will be for when the pawn dies. So let's right-click, create a new Blueprint class, and search for camera shake. And select the camera shake class, click select, and for this, we're going to call this Death Camera Shake. Now, the Death Camera Shake is going to be a little bit more violent than the Hit Camera Shake. The Hit Camera Shake will shake the camera when our projectile hits something, but the Death Camera Shake is going to shake the camera when something dies. So for the oscillation duration, I'm going to make this a bit longer. I'm going to go for 0.35 seconds. And for blend in time and out time, I'm going to set these both to 0.1. Now, just a side note, blend in and out time are percentages of the full time, normalized between 0 and 1. So 0.1 is 10% of the full oscillation duration. Now, I'm going to set the amplitudes to 50 for X and Y. And I'm going to leave the Z amplitude at 0 so that we only jerk the camera in X and Y upon pawn death. This way, we'll get a bit of a different looking camera shake. And for the frequency, I'm going to set these both to 20. So we now have a camera shake, and it's time to implement actually playing these camera shakes from the C++ side. Now, in order to play a camera shake, we're going to need to add camera shake variables. Now, in Unreal Engine version 4.25, the class type for our variables is going to be uCameraShake, and the function is going to be client play camera shake. We'll see how this works. And for Unreal Engine 4.26 and above, the class is now uMatinee Camera Shake, and the function is now client start camera shake. So there's a bit of a difference between Unreal Engine versions. Hey there, Steven from the future here, and I'm just letting you know that there have been some changes in later versions of Unreal Engine. So if you're using Unreal Engine 4.26 and above, instead you should be using uCameraShake Base. So use this class instead of uMatinee Camera Shake. Now, just to show you, here's uCameraShake Base in the documentation, and here is the include for it. So you're going to use this camera/camerashakebase.h for the include. So when we get to the C++ part, go ahead and use this class instead of uMatinee Camera Shake. So all of the stuff we do in Blueprints should still work if you follow the video, but in C++, make sure if you're using 4.26 and above, use uCameraShake Base instead of uMatinee Camera Shake. So first I'd like to handle the hit camera shake in the projectile class. So here in projectile.h, I'm going to add a camera shake. Now I'm going to place a comment here just to remind us of the difference between class types for the Unreal Engine version. So for Unreal Engine 4.25, the type is going to be uCameraShake. Now this is the version I'm using, so that's the variable I'm going to create. But for Unreal Engine version 4.26 and above, the class is going to be uMatinee Camera Shake. So make sure that you use the correct type for the version that you're using. Now this will be forward declared. I'm going to make a uCameraShake. It's a pointer, and I'm going to call this hit camera shake. Now because I'd like to set this from blueprints, since we have a camera shake blueprint, I'm going to expose this. It's going to be a U property. I'm going to make it edit anywhere and give it a category. And for this, I'll keep it in the combat section. Now I'm ready to play the camera shake. So in projectile.cpp, I'm going to place this in onHit here in the check for other actor. And the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that I've set the camera shake from blueprints, which means I need to make sure that hit camera shake is not null. So if hit camera shake, then I can play the play camera shake function. And of course, this is different depending on the Unreal Engine version. So for Unreal Engine version 4.25, we need to call client play camera shake. But for Unreal Engine version 4.26 and above, we need to play client start camera shake. Now, again, I'm using 4.25, so I'm going to call the first one. Now, this function exists on the player controller, and notice here in the documentation it says, deprecated, please use client start camera shake. I'm just going to search for UE4 client start camera shake, and here's a player controller client start camera shake for the versions 4.26 and above. Now notice a couple things. These involve T subclass of variables, which means we need a U class. Now we created blueprints for these variables, which means we can easily create a T subclass of rather than a regular variable here. So I can take this class uCamera shake and put it inside a T subclass of. So let's say T subclass of, and I'm going to keep the forward declaration here, and I don't need the asterisk since T subclass of just wraps this up in the template. And because this hit camera shake is actually a T subclass of, I'm going to call it hit camera shake class. And now in projectile.cpp, rather than hit camera shake, let's call this hit camera shake class, and now we can call client play camera shake. Now this function belongs to the player controller, and we're here in projectile.cpp. And we don't have a variable for the player controller, but we have this function, getFirstPlayerController, which exists on the uWorld class. So we can call getWorld and then call getFirstPlayerController. So we're going to do that. So first we'll call getWorld. And from there, we're going to call getFirstPlayerController. And from getFirstPlayerController, we can call clientPlayCameraShake. And we'll see that this takes a T subclass of. We're going to pass in hitCameraShake class. And the rest of these input parameters have default values. So we can omit the remaining inputs. So let's go ahead and compile this. So back here in the editor, we're ready to test this out. Now we created the blueprint and the T subclass of, but we need to set that T subclass of. So let's go into Actors and BP Projectile. I'm going to open the full blueprint editor and go to the Combat section. And here's my hit camera shake class T subclass of. I can open this and select hit camera shake, and now this will be set. So I'm going to compile, press play, and let's see if we get that camera to shake. And there it goes. Awesome. So next I want to play a camera shake when the pawn dies. So I'm going to go into basepawn.h and add a camera shake variable here. So down here at the bottom, let's make another T subclass of variable. I'm going to forward declare it. It's going to be uCameraShake, and I'm going to call this deathCameraShake class. And just like our other one, we're going to make this a U property, edit anywhere, category, combat. And now we have a camera shake class here in basepawn. Now I'm going to challenge you to play the death camera shake for the pawn when it dies. So you're going to do this when the pawn dies, and that's going to be in handle destruction, of course. So choose the correct location in this function to play this camera shake, and then compile your code, set the T subclass of value in both the tank and tower blueprint classes, and test it out. Pause the video and implement the death camera shake now. Okay, so we have our death camera shake class. Let's go into basepawn.cpp, and I'm going to scroll up to handle destruction. And the first thing I'm going to do is check to make sure death camera shake class is set. And if it is, then we can actually play the camera shake. Now we don't have a pointer to the player controller here, so I'm going to call getWorld from here, getFirstPlayerController, and from there I'm going to call clientPlayCameraShake. And in here we can pass in death camera shake class, and there we have it. So let's compile this And we'll hop back into the editor, and I'm going to open the Pawns folder, BP Pawn Tank, and here we have Death Camera Shake class. I'm going to set this to Death Camera Shake, compile and save, and close. I'm going to close the projectile as well, and open BP Pawn Turret, and set Death Camera Shake class to Death Camera Shake here as well. Now we can test out death, so let's see how this works. Okay, I'm going to go up to one of the towers, and boom, the camera shake works. Now the last thing to check is if we get the camera shake when the towers die. So let's go ahead and kill one of the towers, and there we go. We got the camera to shake. Awesome. So in summary, we are now shaking the camera. We're shaking it when the projectile hits something and when one of the pawns dies. This is just another one of those nice polish-up effects that makes our game look a bit more professional. Speaking of polishing up, in our next video, we're going to polish up the game and get it in its final working state so we can wrap up this section and have a complete working game under our belts. I'll see you soon.